So I power ranked the America's teams going into 2025, which is basically like a tier list. These are based on pretty reliable leaks and verbal agreements that have been reached so far. But I wanted to explain my picks because there were a lot of people who didn't agree with me, especially on the last 4, so I just wanted to explain them here. So first I have 100 Thieves in here. When 100 Thieves play well, I think they have the highest peak, like during stage 1. They seemed unstoppable. Obviously people would discredit them because they don't like Boostio or they think he's toxic or whatever. But 100 Thieves are a super well-rounded roster, and I think if they fix their inconsistency issues, they can easily be a contender for the best team in Americas, especially if they peak at the right time. And here's mainly why I rated them number 1. It's because they made the least amount of changes, and this actually goes back to the Sentinels winning Madrid. I think a large part of that Madrid win for Sentinels was them locking down their roster months before everybody else. Just think 100 Thieves, smallest amount of changes, most similar roster. Xander and Bang are very similar players. I think Xander has the ceiling Bang has, obviously not proven in tier 1 yet. Also, they have chemistry, his ex-teammates EU, and him being on a team with his close friend Asuna. I just think this roster doesn't even need time to prepare, they're just going to pick up right where they left off with Bang. Now at number 2 I had G2, a lot of similar reasons as 100 Thieves. They're slotting in Jogimo for Icy. Icy is solid, but Jogimo is just a top 5 duelist, so it's an instant upgrade straight away. I think Jogimo will have to adjust, but once he adjusts, this team is very scary. They may become the Fnatic of Americas. This will probably be the most consistent team in Americas if I had to guess, just based on last year alone. But just because teams are stacked on paper doesn't really mean everything. Unfortunately, we saw this with 2023 Sentinels. Speaking of stacked on paper and Sentinels, we have Sentinels who have stolen Bang from 100T and Narrate from Carmine Corp. This roster is super stacked on paper. Why are they number 3, you may ask? And honestly, if I could go back, I would probably move them down to number 4. The reason being is I think they lost their team identity. Tens was a crazy aggressive player, and Sassy was that player who was always good in the clutch. This is not what you're getting with Narrate and Bang. While Narrate is a pretty clutch player, Bang is not a Tens-like Omen at all. He is very anchory and plays the game correctly. But he is also a very clutch player. So I'm curious to see how it works out for them in 2025. Obviously, they did the same thing in 2023. They picked up 5 crazy good players, and they failed pretty badly, so we'll just have to see. For number 4, I have NRG. This is probably one of the most overlooked rosters going into 2025. They didn't really make any crazy pickups. I have so many good things to say about Mata and Verno. I think they can easily hang with some of the big names in tier 1, and under a great IGL like FNS, I see this roster going very, very far. Now number 5, we have KRU, staying pretty much the same, just adding Mazinho from Lev, I believe, which is a good roster. Mazinho is good, Kesnet is good. This roster would probably be a little higher, but in my opinion, MTA is just a thrower. That's the hard truth, but yeah, middle of the pack roster. They could really finish anywhere. Number 6, Lev. This is a big roster switch, switching Aspes out for Demon 1. Well, not by choice, Aspes left, but they got Demon 1, which is interesting because I don't think Demon 1 can really play anything besides Jet and Smokes, and he's filling a spot for a duelist who played Raze, Neon, Jet. And King and Superman are both also Smokes players. Demon 1 on Raze maps, I imagine he would go to Smokes, and someone like Tex would step up. Maybe not though, I don't know. This roster just seems kind of like a mess right now. Also, Lev fans are mad because they're a Chilean team who are building a majority American roster. But I think if they win, it's still a win for Chile. I can't hate personally, but I just see some people mad about it. Number 7, C9. This roster never really steps up when it matters. It's cool to see them bring in Vic though, he's a really good young player. But pretty much the same roster they had last year, other than that. Number 8. Now EG is very interesting, they have a lot of options. Firstly, it seems like they're keeping Derek and Potter as a coach, which are 2 very good choices. Now Lear, who's a tier 3-ish player, so that's an interesting choice to me, but maybe they're cooking. Who knows? I don't really know much about Lear. I don't like the rest of their options either, if I'm being honest. They have 7, who I do like, but I feel like it doesn't really make sense because they have Derek, who is just a better 7. Seems like they're keeping Derek. GMD, kind of a middle of the pack player. Now apparently they also have Ye and IC trialing, which I believe I've heard they're both trialing for Sentinel role. So this roster seems like a bit of a mess right now. They have a while to figure out this roster fully. I think they should keep Nature, Derek, and Ye. That's a really good starting 3 and Potter as coach. I also like the idea of 7, but I just don't know if they can make him fit here. For the final 4, this is where a couple people were mad, but not too many people since all the Brazilians are banned from Twitter. But if you couldn't tell, the final 4 teams are Brazilian teams. Now let me explain exactly what I was thinking. Loud lost their IGL, who has brought them success for all of these years, pretty much a brand new roster, also supposedly having financial issues. 2G, the team who just ascended, how could I have them this low? Well, one of their really good players, Spike, actually can't even play because he's too young. And the Ascension teams just never really do that well in the league, so it's pretty hard to say. MIBR and Furia, I don't even need to say much about these teams. They just don't care that they're recycling players at this point. I don't think they care to even be here.